Hey, everybody, welcome to Divorcing Today. Now What with John and Jennifer. Today we have Krysten Cameron. She's a principal, and she's going to be giving us insight on what kids go through when their parents are separating and divorcing. And she's going to give us a couple of tips on how parents who are separating and divorcing should do and not do. Stay tuned. Welcome to the show, Krysten. Tell us about yourself.
So my name is Krysten Cameron. I'm a principal in one of the largest school boards in Ontario. I've been doing this gig for over 13 years. I'm a mom, I'm a sister, I'm a wife, and I'm also a principal, a very proud principal.
Very busy woman, it sounds like.
What woman isn't busy, Jen?
That's very true. So I know that there's a lot of families that go through a lot of different things. And I'm wondering, when people are going through separation, do the kids usually come and talk to you about it, or do the parents talk to you about it, or how does that usually happen?
So I think it depends on the context of the relationship with the school. It is amazing to parents at times to find out how much we at school actually know about what's going on at home, like what you had for dinner, what the mess in the front hall is from, or all of those ins and outs. Kids share a lot of information that we need to know, and a lot of information that we don't need to know. And I think when it comes to personal information, like whether or not parents are separating, it is a personal choice as to whether or not parents share with the school. However, separating and getting divorced is something that always comes to school with kids. And so my advice is that parents do share that information with the school. It may not be with me as the principal or the vice principal if you don't feel that we have that relationship, but I welcome that relationship. I think it's important that the teacher of the children know, because kids spend a lot of time at school, and divorce and separation is something that comes to school with kids no matter what. It doesn't matter, and we want kids to be able to feel safe to talk about it and not to feel shame or secrecy around it, because that has a tremendous impact on them as little people and them as learners. So the more open and transparent the parents can be, at least with the teacher, the better able we are to support the kids at school and their learning.
I think it's really important to inform people. That's great. Yeah. Go ahead, John. Sorry.
Oh, big time. No worries. Okay, so Krysten, in your experience, are there obvious signs a child is affected by separation?
So I think it depends on the circumstances of the separation and divorce. I think, and it depends on the child and the personality of the child. A lot of kids can hold it together. A lot of kids can't. And teachers know their kids really well. Even if they're holding it together, a teacher will know that something's amiss. What they exhibit and what they show depends on, of course, what's going on at home. For some kids, if there's a lot of fighting at home, or if there's stress or those kinds of things, a separation or divorce can be a real relief for the children. And we can see a bit of relaxation happening at school, but oftentimes it's associated with a lot of worry. Kids feel badly about it. We know some kids take blame for it. There's all kinds of emotions that come with separation and divorce, and we see it all at school. We see it sometimes in how they interact with their peers. We see it sometimes in their self-regulation, their ability to control their emotions or their decision-making. Sometimes we see it through a lot of tears or upset or anger, or maybe they're a little bit, the younger kids tend to be a little bit more clingy to the teacher. Maybe they are attention seeking. Maybe their work output is impacted. It really just does depend on the kid, but we always know when something's amiss at school.
You touched on a really interesting point, because a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, I'm afraid to split because of the effects it's going to have on the children. But if there is that environment at home where it's hostile and there's yelling and there's fighting and the children do witness all of that, even if the parents don't think that they do, it is a much better environment to have the peace and the calm and the no conflict in the home. So it's really great that you highlighted that. That is something that does give a lot of ease to a child.
Well, and there's lots of research too, even from birth, babies being able to sense the mood and emotion and stress of parents. And so even when you think you're fighting behind closed doors, whatever hormones or whatever you release as an adult, your kids pick up on it. And just, they talk about mother's instinct in terms of healthcare and knowing your child and when something's amiss. Kids have that same intuition with parents often, and we don't give them the credit that they deserve in terms of how with it they really are. And I've had many conversations with parents where I've had to say to them, like, would you mind sharing a little bit about what's going on at home? Because we've seen a drastic change in behavior, or we're starting to have some issues at school that we haven't seen over the last few years. Is there something going on at home that we need to know about? And so oftentimes we initiate the opportunity for parents to share because we're already seeing it at school.
Right. And you're so right. They feel the energy and they definitely feed off of that. And so is there any advice that you would give to the parents who are going through divorce to make sure that their kids are going to get through it in a good way?
Well, I think the more we can support students, the more we can support kids, the better off they'll be. And school is an important source of support. Mm-hmm. There are lots of things that we can do here at school to support a child through this process. Certainly it could be just being a safe adult or knowing that they're okay at school. Often when the house is in turmoil, the school is the safe place. It's the calm place. They want to be there. So we do our best to mitigate things at home when we can. So letting the school know what's going on. We don't need to know the ins and the outs. We don't need to know who is parent A and who is parent B or those kinds of things. But just an open communication so that we are able to monitor things for the kids at school and provide them those places of support. Depending on where your child goes to school, there might be other layers that can be offered. For example, I have a school social worker here that is available to support kids who need it. Typically, my school social worker works with kids who whatever's going on is impacting their learning. So if the divorce isn't directly impacting their learning, she may not have much to do with them here at school, but she can connect with the families and refer them on to other services if needed. We can also support them in finding other avenues of support for their kids, play therapy, the psychologist. We often talk, say, let your family doctor know as well. And I think it's important for parents to have that open communication because we notice things like when they're tired. So maybe they're not sleeping at night and maybe, we can't give parenting advice here at school, though we often get asked for it, but we can work with the kid while they are the kid or kids, children, while they are here in the school building.
Well, it's good that you say that, like the school is a safe place, right? Because you never know what's actually happening at home, and it's good that at least your school, I'm sure other schools too, but you have a social worker that can help the children if they're going through something, or the staff, including yourself, can see signs of or difference of behavior with the students. That's really incredible. Right, and it's good that those services are offered.
Yeah, it's interesting because. Sorry, you want to keep going?
You go.
Well, just because when there's turmoil in the home, what you have to remember is that what's consistent is school. So the other piece is when school isn't consistent, when there's a move and the child is moving to another school, we like to be able to support that transition. We like to be able to connect with the next teacher. We like to be able to make sure that they get to say goodbye to their friends in a good way, that, we get to sort of close and open doors together in partnership. And so that's really important too.
The other question I have is, what's the biggest mistake you see that parents make during the process with their children? During the separation
There are
process?
lots of mistakes that parents make because we're not perfect parents. we make mistakes, but we need to own our mistakes and work to repair some of those things. In terms of school, I think the first mistake would be not telling someone at the school. So like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be the principal. Often, I mean, I would know these things, the teachers would tell me, but if I don't have a relationship with you that you feel comfortable coming to tell me, but definitely tell your children's teachers. So that would be the biggest mistake. I think when things are not going amicably between mom and dad, or mom and mom, or dad and dad, or whatever the family unit is, putting the school in the middle is never, or the child in the middle is never the right decision. Our first priority is the mental health and well-being of every kid, including yours, and then their academic learning. And we also have a professional responsibility to follow process, procedure, law, all of those things. So when there's a parenting plan in place, at school we have to follow the parenting plan. And even when the office of the children's lawyer gets involved and contacts the school, we can't share opinion. We can't share whether or not we think mom is doing a better job or dad sends more nutritious meals. Like, unless it's factual and observable and they ask specific questions, we don't get to put our opinion into the mix, right? Our opinion is we're here to care for the kids. And I think that parents trying to use school staff as leverage becomes a real problem, because we need to have good relationships between home and school. And putting us in the middle doesn't go well for anybody. And at the end of the day, it puts the child in the middle, which is where they shouldn't be, right? The issue and the relationship is between the parents of the children, and doesn't have anything to do with the child. So it makes kids have more success at school when parents are engaged and participating in school. And so when one parent has a relationship with the school and the other one doesn't, that does impact the child, particularly kids with learning exceptionalities. So when we have to have meetings about the progress of your child and both parents won't be in the same room, or they spend most of the meeting arguing, or one parent will sign consent for something and the other parent won't sign consent for everything, that breaks down relationships. And what we have to remember is all of us are here for the child. And if we don't collectively come together to do that, at the school, we can't help, right? And so it makes it particularly challenging for the school when we get put in the middle.
I can definitely see that, and really, really appreciate your input on all these really important subjects. And I think that parents should really shine light a little bit more on what's being said around the children, even what's not. And when they do go to school, they do carry it with them. So having an open conversation with the teachers to try to get as much feedback to how the child is doing would probably be helpful for parents to monitor their child through this separation process.
Well, and it's not, when you share with the school what's going on, let's be honest, there are times where things are really at odds between parents and it's not going amicably. And the school does need to know that it's not going amicably. And parents need to know that we will care for your child at school. So if one parent isn't sending nutritious meals or enough food, and the other parent drops off stuff to support that meal, for example, we will give it to your child. We also have healthy snacks here available, but we have a responsibility as a school to say to that one parent, your child's still hungry based on what you. Similarly, we don't want to be in the middle. We're not going to put that other parent in the middle, right? So, Jen, if you're not sending winter boots, and John, you are, I'll say to Jen, the days you send your child to school, there's no winter boots. Like, if you need me to provide winter boots, we will, but I need you to know. So I'm not going to say to John, just so you know, Jennifer's never sending winter boots, right? Like, anyways, but it's all about the kids.
It is. Absolutely.
Yeah. Which is good, right? All about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Krysten, for coming on today to speak to everybody. Really appreciate it. And
anytime.
Yeah, very informative. Wow, what good insight from Krysten.
yeah, that was really helpful, I think, for parents to hear some of the things that she's discussing. I mean, I think a lot of people wouldn't really consider having that open dialogue with the teacher as a form of some insight to how the child's feeling.
Yeah, and not having the kid in the middle and not having the school in the middle is always good practical advice. I'm sure she's seen a lot more than what she has provided to us, right? So it's always good to make sure that your kids have a good mental health state.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for tuning in today on Divorcing Today with Jennifer and John. Now what?